Good afternoon. If everyone could take their seats so we can start. Perfect. Let's start. Welcome to the press conference following the Gimnik meeting. With thanks to our Danish hosts, the High Representative will start debriefing you on the discussions with the ministers, followed by the Danish minister, and then we'll open the floor to your questions. High Representative, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and I'm sorry for you that you have to spend your Saturday here in the room without windows. But we had a very long discussion today, a very long day with the EU ministers, and I can already tell you that we didn't cover all the points. So we didn't get to the working methods discussion that we desperately needed, but we will do that in coming months, definitely. So what took the time? Very substantive discussions first on Ukraine. So European Union and all the member states support the diplomatic efforts to achieve peace and the end of Russia's war. But it's clear that Russia is not preparing for peace. It is the opposite. They are preparing for more war. This week, Russia launched its second biggest air attack on Kiev since the war began. The strikes killed many civilians and damaged offices that belong to the European Union and British Council. Russian airstrikes also hit a US factory. So today ministers discussed ways to further increase pressure on Russia to really negotiate, to really come to the negotiation table and sit down and discuss with Ukraine. Sanctions have deprived Russia tens of billions of euros to fund its war, and sanctions work. Ministers discussed the possible building blocks for the next sanction package. Options include secondary sanctions, those backing Russia's war, as well as import bans and tariffs on Russian products. Efforts against shadow fleet ships must also be stepped up. And I've asked the member states for their proposals next week. The goal is to exert maximum pressure on Russia. Of course, new actions would be stronger if matched by our partners, including our transatlantic partners. Today, ministers also discussed the use of Russian frozen assets for Ukraine's defense and reconstruction. It was a very, very good and very substantive discussion. We needed this to hear all the arguments from all the sides, to really debate on the substance matter, and this discussion will continue. Ministers acknowledged the need to address Ukraine's financing gap and to hold Russia accountable for war damages. To achieve this, it is crucial to explore all available avenues while minimizing the potential risks. And I want to stress that financial markets did not react when we froze the assets. Financial markets are calm now as we discuss this, and there are risks, but I'm confident that we are able to mitigate those risks. One thing is absolutely clear where everybody agreed, and this is that given the devastation that Russia is causing in Ukraine and has caused in Ukraine so far, it is unthinkable that Russia will ever see this money again unless it fully compensates Ukraine the damages caused. Second, Middle East. First on Iran. The E3, so the France, Germany and UK, have begun the process of reimposing UN sanctions on Iran. And we had a short discussion on this. The 30-day deadline has started, and this does not mark the end of diplomacy. Tehran still has the chance to fully cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency and resume negotiations with the US over its nuclear program. And the ball is in Tehran's court. So I stand ready to support any kind of diplomatic efforts towards finding a solution. On Gaza, Israel's announcement that Gaza City is now a combat zone threatens to worsen the humanitarian situation. If military solution was possible, the war would already be over. Gaza needs less war, not more war, and on the West Bank, Israel's decision to advance its West Bank settlements is illegal and undermines the two-state solution. So, of course, we discussed what more can we do. We have been very active in contact with Israelis trying to improve the humanitarian situation on the ground, but of course more needs to be done. Many EU member states have taken measures against Israel, not against Israel, but against the Israeli government. And there is a very important distinction to be made. It's not against Israel, but actually the actions of Israeli government that are going on, including sanctioning the ministers, suspending arms exports. This is what the EU member states have done. So on the European Union side, there is no sugarcoating to the reality where we are. It was clear that today a broad majority of member states gave more ideas. What more can we do to really improve the situation? We will explore those ideas further. But it's clear that member states disagree on how to get Israeli government to change course. The options are clear and remain on the table. We have presented an option paper, but the problem is that not all EU member states are on board. But again, we had a very good discussion on different options, and we will continue to try to find ways to explore what can we do. And finally, on the issue of denying visas to Palestinian authorities so that they can't participate in the United Nations General Assembly. In the light of the existing agreements between the UN and its host state, we all urge for this decision to be reconsidered, considering the international law and the way United Nations has been built up. So this is the agreement that we all had on this topic. Thank you very much. And now over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Kaja. When it comes to foreign policy, there's more than enough for us to tackle. And it's absolutely no secret, and that remains after today's meeting, that we are 27 member states, and we do not always agree on everything. But as I mentioned when I arrived this morning, the informal Gimnik setting provides the, I would say, perfect atmosphere for constructive and honest discussions on how we can deliver on our promised pledges, how we can move forward, how we can strike compromise between ourselves. And I really want to thank my colleagues for the truly open, dynamic and non-scripted discussion we have had today. And as Kaja mentioned, we had core discussions on two of the major challenges facing the European Union, Russia's illegal war against Ukraine and the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. The European Union's most important task right now is to maintain support for Ukraine and increase the pressure on Russia. I think everybody agrees that it's very clear that Putin is trying to buy time and divert attention from the massive and brutal attacks on Ukraine. He must not succeed. And the only language he understands is that of hard pressure. And I want to thank my colleagues for the very constructive talks we have had on how we can move forward with the 19th sanction package. We need to bring Ukraine in a position of strength, and therefore we need to increase pressure together through harder sanctions. And of course, transatlantic cooperation will make the effect of the sanctions even stronger. The other main topic we discussed today is the current humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Daily horrific violence continues, And just last week, the UN declared famine in Gaza. Israel's actions go far beyond act of self-defense, and we have repeatedly urged Israel to stop the war and change her course. I have today urged EU member states to increase the pressure on Israel to change course, and I think we all share the concern about the humanitarian situation, and we all want the war in Gaza to end and the hostages to be released. As one concrete way to increase pressure, Denmark supports the suspension of the trade chapter in the association agreement with Israel. We will continue to work to secure the necessary support among the EU countries to do so. We must at the same time work hard to relieve the immense humanitarian suffering in Gaza. That's why we have called for Israel to reopen the medical corridor from Gaza to East Jerusalem and offered our support to treat patients from Gaza. Many of my colleagues echoed that approach. So we must increase our efforts. We must turn our words into action. I really appreciate the very open and frank discussions we have had today, and I, as I always do, look much forward to seeing all my colleagues again at our next Council meeting. And that, as I mentioned in the beginning, the strength of the EU is the fact that we are able to find common ground. And now, maybe more than ever, it is crucial to stand united and speak with one voice in a world of division, and perhaps even more important, to change these words into action. Thank you.
Thank you. We open the floor to the questions. Please specify the principal to whom you address your questions. And we will start second row. Andrea, a mic for the lady. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Andrea Palashana from Bloomberg. Hi, Rep. I want to ask you, yesterday morning you mentioned that in terms of sanctions against Russia, what would hurt the most would be more sanctions against oil and gas, and as well